In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create that dream team and the individual roles that you need in order to make your movie. Coming up. Hello everyone, my name is James Martin. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And today I'm going to teach you about how to make a perfect crew to make your movie and to execute it properly. If you're new here, I want you to please consider subscribing because I'm here to help young filmmakers such as yourselves on how to create great movies and how to grow your filmmaking career. So, let's get started. So the list I'm about to present to you is an ideal list of crew that you're going to want to consider in order to make your movie. These are optional. It depends on the type of movie that you're making, the type of positions you need to fill, and of course, what are your roles going to be. Sometimes you may need to multitask. You may need to have crew multitask depending on how many people you have on board. Keep in mind though the simple rule about jack of all trades, master of none, trying to assign one role to each person. But I'm just going to go through a very basic list of typical crew members that are usually on a movie set. Some people that you can find to do certain jobs and take care of certain responsibilities. And of course but also keep in mind, there's literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people involved in making a movie. It really takes an entire army to make a movie. But here are just a few basics on the crew to make a movie. Number one, it starts with the writer. So find a writer that you're happy to collaborate with. And either you're going to go to websites and license other scripts or just make connections to various different writers around you, okay? Because a lot of times, writers, they like making scripts, but they also need someone to make it for them, right? I've personally got multiple connections to different writers, and actually just recently, I had a writer reach out to me and ask me if I was interested in producing his script, and that's how we come to becoming one of them. The next step is, of course, the director. Now, you can either get someone else to direct, you may also be interested in directing. It depends on what your field of interest is. Usually everyone likes to direct, but if you're interested in directing, here's the basic qualifications you need to find either a good director or how to make sure you become a good director. So first and foremost, and I'm speaking from experience, if you're going to bring a director on board, make sure the director is a great person to work with, okay? I don't care about talent. I don't care what the resume looks like. I don't care what their demo reel looks like. I don't care what kind of movies they make. Are they a nice person to work with? Because if not, it's going to lead to more headaches and more problems than you deserve later down the road. Make sure they're nice. They need to be nice to you, especially when you're paying their salary. They need to be nice to work with, particularly when you're under stressful conditions. And most of all, they have to be nice to the crew and have to be nice to the cast. Some directors are, some directors aren't. If you're the type of person that wants to be a director, don't be a jerk. Make sure you know your stuff. Make sure communication is open. Don't hide anything. Know what you want. Communicate. Take feedback very, very seriously. Be open for feedback. Don't criticize. Don't belittle anyone. Those are the basic components of a good director that you want to look for. Next is what's called the assistant director. So what's the job of an assistant director? If the director is in charge of making sure that his or her vision comes across, the assistant helps the director make sure that happens. Now, what's an example of some work that assistant director does, or an AD? The AD helps create the schedule for the shoot. On the day of the shoot, the AD is the one responsible for making sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to do and everyone's organized and put together. The AD is also in charge to make sure that everyone runs on time, especially when you're on a set where you don't have all day. Maybe you have to be done by certain times for various different reasons. I've done movies where my actors had to leave by certain times because they had jobs, or we had to be out of a location by a certain time, or we were outside and we had to shoot everything before it got dark. Various different reasons. Your AD is to make sure that you stay on time. So the production manager, what are the details of the production manager? The production manager basically makes sure that everything stays on budget. So the production manager is going to take whatever budget you have and it's going to break it down into how the movie is going to get done. What amount is going to go to this, what amount is going to go to art or equipment or locations, getting the necessary things together, creating the salaries for the crew and the cast if there's any money for that left over. And again, if you have a small crew and you're the producer, you may have to take on the role of production manager, but you're basically in charge of making sure that the money gets distributed properly to all the different departments. And you have to make sure that you stick to that budget. Don't let it go over, don't let it go under. Make sure all that money is put right into your movie. Next is what's called the production coordinator. What the production coordinator is basically in charge of is the open communication, making sure that all the departments are aware of what's going on, making sure that everyone is aware of what the other team is doing as far as what their roles are concerned, making sure that communication is open, and making sure that everyone is fully aware of what they have to do in order to fulfill their jobs, right? So the production coordinator makes sure that everyone's aware about any sudden changes according to the assistant director. The coordinator is involved in making sure that if there's any changes, that all gets done, or if the director wants something, the coordinators pass that on to the rest of the crew. So they're the open communications person. All right, the next is your director of photography, also known as your cinematographer, also known as the DP. The DP is in charge of making sure that everything is shot on camera. Your DP is going to make suggestions to you as to what equipment you should be using, what camera you should be using, how it should be shot, ideas for lighting. Sometimes your DP may just be wanting to use the camera and then someone else is going to help with lighting, in which case you get a cinematographer. That's an option, by the way. And just your director of photography is usually going to be the one on the camera, but sometimes they have other people on the camera to do that job. It depends. Talk to your DP and make sure that they're comfortable in whatever jobs and positions that they're doing. Now, your DP is also going to have a huge team underneath him or her, so let them have the ability to create their own team, because their team is basically going to consist of a camera operator, a second assistant camera operator, a grip, a gaffer, an electric boy, and a best boy. So what are those very quickly? Camera operator is the person that actually runs the camera. Second AC is the person that helps out the camera operator, usually does stuff like focus pulling, getting the equipment, getting the lenses, making sure all the lenses are kept clean, making sure the equipment is kept clean. Usually does the taping, usually does the marking, etc. like that. And again, if you want more information about any of these specific roles, any specific details, let me know what roles you're more interested in the comments, and I'll do a video on just that one role, okay? You also have grip. Grip is in charge of putting all the physical equipment together, like the stands, like putting up the big equipment, the big sets. That's usually what grips do. They're kind of the handyman on the set. Gaffers, they're in charge of helping with the lighting. Now, your director may not want to do the lighting, so sometimes they have a cinematographer or a gaffer helping out with the lighting specifically. Your gaffer is in charge of everything to do with lights. So when they set up the lights, when they plug it in, that's what the gaffer is in charge of. You also have an electric. An electric is the person who's in charge of the electricity, making sure that he or she knows how much electricity you have available and make sure that you don't blow a fuse. And then best boy is the jack of all trades. They are grip, they are electric, they are gaffer, they are assistant cameraman, they're everywhere. These are great volunteers as well, usually PAs that want to go from a production assistant all the way up to a best boy. And just they're great for when the grip, gaffer, the camera operator, the DP, the cinematographer, when those guys need an extra hand. Next list is the production designer. Your production designer is in charge of creating all the art for your movie. That includes the set, that includes the props, that includes designing the makeup, that includes designing wardrobe, hair, the overall color scheme for the movie. So many different things. They are the artistic one in making sure that your movie looks stylized. Now, your production designer, much like your director of photography, is also going to find their own team usually. So what that means is your production designer is probably going to look for an art director. The art director is in charge of making sure that whatever your set needs to look like, they're going to be there to make sure that the whole set is dressed appropriately. They're also going to find a team to help with the wardrobe, whether that's creating the custom costumes or getting wardrobe from a store or a warehouse. You also have makeup artists in case you have makeup. Now, that's not just including special effects like monster makeup and whatnot, but it also includes just make sure that everyone looks nice. Or if they're supposed to be sick, make them look sick. If they're supposed to be upset, help them look more upset. If they're supposed to be tanned, make them look more tanned. So many different things. A makeup artist is an absolute must on your movies if you have the budget and the willpower to do so. The next one is a sound engineer. This is the person in charge of recording all the sound on set, including the dialogue. You also want to do what's called room tone. Room tone is when everyone stays quiet, all the noises are off, and then you just get the natural vibrance in the room. This is going to be important for your editing later on. You want to also find craft and catering. Now, usually that's a department on its own. Sometimes you may have to do craft and catering depending on what your budget is. You're basically in charge of making sure that there's food on set. And again, if you're interested in learning more about how to do craft and catering for your sets, let me know and I'll make a video later on, but let me know in the comments. They are in charge of making the food. Next, of course, you have your editor to put together your movie. Next, you have post-audio engineer. This is the person that's in charge of editing the music, editing the sound effects, and editing the dialogue together. That's a job on its own. Make sure everything's filtered, make sure everything looks nice. Sometimes there are people who do individual jobs, such as just cutting music, or just doing sound effects, or just doing the dialogue. Sometimes people can do all of them, but that's basically a department on its own, so you can give that to someone. Next, you want to think about music. Now, this is either someone who's going to compose the music or just someone that's going to do what's called the music editing. So what that means is you're going to have a library of music, such as from musicians that you're familiar with. Maybe it comes from online, like various different royalty-free music sites. They're going to take the music, find appropriate music between them and the director, and cut those into the music and mix it properly, okay? And they're going to do what's called syncing. They're going to sync the music to the movie. Next is your colorist. What the colorist is going to do is they're going to color the movie. They're going to do what's called color grading. Now, color grading mostly applies to the film, but it also is something that gets done in the digital age. So what's going to do is going to take the raw footage from your editing suite. It's going to take the raw footage from the camera, and it's going to make things darker or lighter or heavier contrast, make things red, make things blue, make things green, mixing colors around, so that you get the right tone for your movie. And trust me, color can really make a big difference later on. You also want to consider a team to help you with your marketing. There's many different departments inside the marketing and just various different jobs and roles, and you can decide whether you want to do that or you may want to give it to someone else. But just some ideas of marketing assignments that you're going to have is prints and signage, social media, videographer, photographer, and a strategist. Last but not least is your event planner. Now, again, this might be you as the producer, and that's fine too. Your event, or if you can reach out to an event planner, give it to them. The event planner is going to help you create those premieres, create the screenings, organize how the event's going to go together, taking tickets, and then bringing the money back to you later on, and of course taking a little pay cut for themselves. That's a basic list on the crew that you might want to consider getting to make your movie. Now, it may change, as I said before, it may change on the type of movie, depending on the movie that you're making, depending on the crew, depending on the budget that you have, but those are some areas that you might want to think about. The key here is to, first off, make sure that they're all nice people and they're all great people to work with. Make sure, of course, they work very, very hard. You don't want to get someone that's going to make excuses to be lazy. That's not going to be dependable. And of course, they need to be good at what they do. They need to be talented, they need to be skillful. So just a few things that you might want to consider in order to get the perfect crew to make your movie. And that's it. I hope you guys got value out of this. And again, if there's anything that you want me to explain in further detail about, this was just a very broad, very general list of crew members that you might want to consider getting in order to make your movie. But if there's any specific areas that you want more explanation, please let me know in the comments, because I will read it and I will respond and make a video later in the future. And again, if you got any value out of this video, please consider subscribing down below and turn on that bell notification so you don't miss a single upload. I upload videos on a weekly basis, packing loads of content this summer. I'm going to be helping you with vlogs, tips, and how to make great movies, okay? Stick around, good luck with your movie, and I'll see you next time.